There, I'm going to take you on a little tour through a map of Newton. This is a Google map of Newton as it looks now, with all the roads and villages still labeled here. We're going to back up though, actually. Let's erase all those things. And we've still got the shape of Newton. Most of it is, the border is shown by the blue, the Charles River coming around Newton. And that's the way it's uh, always been since Newton was set up. But there are some little changes. So we'll add these lines here, show you the eastern border. It gets a little complicated, but just to simplify for now. And Watertown has that little notch that has been there again since Newton was first set up. This line here that you see near Waltham, the one that's sort of showing up right now, that one is the current border line, but actually in the beginning, earlier on in Newton history, this line did not exist. The border was actually still the river. That changes in the 1800s. So we'll keep those borders up though, even the Waltham one, just to let you orient yourself. And now I'm going to add one more layer here, a little terrain. So these are some hilly areas in Newton. The Nontum Hill is one of the taller ones. You got Chestnut Hill, that the neighborhood's based on Oak Hill, might be a familiar name as well. There's a brook that used to exist that didn't show up on the map before, so I added it. But you see in the middle too, there are some blue spots, some lakes, ponds that still exist. Right in the center, you have what we call Crystal Lake. Here's Hammond Pond over on the right side. So again, before we add any roads or anything, this is the general sort of land-based setup of Newton that the first settlers to this area would have seen. All of the individual settlements, but just as a little taste, I've zoomed into this northeastern area near where Bigelow Middle School is right now. So there's the area of Bigelow, the building as it is right now, and there were 3 settlements right near Bigelow. So I've colored each of those as you see here. So these would be in the size of a plot of land. And as you see, they're different kinds of sizes. So as I zoom in a bit farther here, again, keeping Bigelow right there, these were owned by 3 different men in the 1600s. So Richard Park owned this land by 1647. A man named John Jackson had this little sliver between, right along Waverly Ave. That's Waverly Ave now. And Samuel Hyde had a somewhat larger area by 1640. He was one of the very earliest of the settlers. So that's almost 400 years ago. So you can see how large Bigelow is. Compare that with the size, that's Center Street right there, was one border of his land. I think this is 80 acres that he owned. And Samuel Hyde's land there is 100 acres of land. That's how they would have measured. But since we don't really know what an acre is, I compare it with the size of the Bigelow Middle School area, that rectangle, and see how many Bigelows could fit inside. So that gives you an idea of how much land these people were owning. Again, it could vary, but even this guy has got quite a bit, quite a good size plot. That again, that would be 20 acres, but many more than one Bigelow Middle School, one middle school size. All right, now we'll zoom back. So the first settlers would have come to Newton in the mid 1600s, and we don't have any really good maps for that period, but we do have a pretty good one for what the situation was by the year 1700. So after about 60 years of Newton settlers, I'm going to add another layer here. And here we have, these are all the roads, what you see in green there. These are all the roads, paths that are set up by people in those first years. I know it was a lot to take in at first. And we've got labels for most of the things. So here in Newton Center, you've got the Newton Common, where Newton Center is now. The Meeting House is actually further north. There were 2 schools, one of them here near the Meeting House, and another one down here by Oak Hill. So that gives us an idea of where most people would have been living by 1700. These were set up in 1701. There was a church up here that had been set up around that time. There's a mill. This was a mill pond. So we have roads over this way, but again, you're seeing some of these seem incomplete, perhaps. The Natick Road doesn't even go all the way to Natick. So we've got names for some of these. Like this is what's now called Crafts Street up in northern Newton kind of area. So this would have been the situation by the year 1700. So the map that I used to find these roads, to identify these locations, also has, the same map has roads for 1750. It showed them in a different sort of, different shaped lines. So what I'm going to add now is by 1750, see how some roads have been expanded. I'm going to go back to 1700 and up again to 1750. So like in the center, you see there have been some connections between these. There's now a bridge. This bridge leads to Needham. That was done in 1744. A few other roads like up to the Waltham. Yeah, you have a bridge across to Waltham that didn't exist before. So the purple ones are the ones that we've added in. There was a road here before that got replaced by a straighter road. And now I'm going to add, well, actually, I'll hold off a second. So this is the situation. You still got those two schools. A third school, though, has now been added over here in the west, is now a West District. There's no real West Newton yet, but clearly there were enough people by then to justify having a school in this part. And we see more roads over there, too. So that brings us up to 1750. Now we're going to add an extra layer of some things, buildings and such that get added up to 1800. So watch what happens now. Okay, so we have more schools. 5 more schools get added. One down here in the Lower Falls area. Now you have one that didn't exist here near Upper Falls. There's been one added up here in the North District as well. The Center Street School has moved, actually. It had been up here, and now there's a new one right there. This Baptist church, there's a new burial ground that wasn't there, and also the purple ones that you notice around here. These are factories. Factories popping up along here. Maybe a little bit later than 1800 for some of them. And I don't have the specifics on here right now. There's a poorhouse. I noticed a poorhouse shows up over here. Oh, the meeting house also moved. The school moved further south, and the meeting house moves away from the burial ground down to here. And the First Parish Church is set up. So certainly some more changes showing up by the early 1800s. The map that I was able to find in historical records is from 1831. So now we're jumping ahead about another 30 years, about another generation. So we'll keep all these things up here, and let's add the next layer and see what gets added. Okay. So the black, in this case, the black are the new roads. So let me take them away once again and look where the black roads show up. So most of them in the central area of Newton, it seems. But certainly more places and things, and you're probably noticing most of these down in the lower and upper falls regions. On the 1831 lower falls area, so we can see what's been added. A couple of bridges that weren't there back in 1750. I haven't found yet when those bridges were built, but now those roads don't end. You have a bridge heading to Weston that, again, that actually was there before, but now you have a couple heading to Needham, and a school, again, that wasn't here before. This is an Episcopal church, a Church of England church that gets set up in 1814. And factories. Here's a specific factory that had been set up right here in Lower Falls. Along the river to Upper Falls. One thing you can notice when you zoom in here that just surprised me every time when I was lining up these old maps to the new is you see so many roads that are still in the same place as they were 200 or more years ago. So that's why a lot of these overlap, and we see that when we zoom in. You can also see by 1831 there are not one but 2 or 3 schools in this area here. That's how big Upper Falls was. We see 2 factories, and these were actually more like complexes of factories going on along here. This one I found was actually on a there's sort of an island right by this bridge. And you know, we got like the burial ground. You got these. There's a meeting house here in Upper Falls. So again, I just want to zoom in and let you see some of the detail of how this neighborhood is expanding by 1831. Last map that I was able to find is from 1848. So we're going from 1831 to 1848. That's only 17 years, but in that roughly 20-year time period, Newton's population almost doubles. And as I click here, you're going to see some big changes in Newton. A lot of the roads have stayed the same, but there are a few things. So let me take those away again and see the ones that get added. So there are three things that probably jump out. The red one, I put in red, that's the railroad. The railroad gets established in 1834. That you have train service start going between Worcester and Boston. The black one here, this surprised me to find. This is an aqueduct. And there's a tunnel part actually here. That's why this is gray. There's a part that's underground, but most of this was a ditch. This is bringing water from the Cochituate out in Framingham, from a reservoir going through Newton all the way into Boston. Again, an effective population increase. And third thing you notice in the corner down here is the this gray chunk that used to be part of Newton and gets added to Roxbury, basically gets added to Boston. And a large part of this area is the Brook Farm Utopian community. So that's wrapped up in this as well. Again, you see a lot more schools, and we'll zoom in on a couple of areas here. But again, the three major things would be the railroad. Again, you've got the aqueduct passing through here, and Newton's lost a little bit of its size as well. This specific West Newtonville neighborhood here's the 1831 situation. Again, notice all these roads going so parallel to and linking up with where they are now. Now let me show you again 1848. So remember, in just 17 years, from the 1831 map to the 1848 map, look at all these roads and settlements that are getting made in that time period here. I'll go back and add it once more. So again, that shows population growth, right? This item here, this location is in 1848 was the normal school, the training for teachers, and that has since moved to Framingham State College or University. But that building is now the Unitarian Church, but in between it was a private school. So that's a rather important spot right there. An excellent spot to see growth in this period here is when we look at the Newton Corner area. So again, the white lines are the roads that exist now. That the pink one there, that notch, is the border with Watertown that still exists. So here you've got Center Street coming down in the green. The First Parish Church, now that's there's a Greek Orthodox church there. So watch when I show you again. This is 1831. This is the 1831 situation. And now watch, remember there's the red is the railroad, and look at all the things that pop up. Roads, an additional church. The Elliott Church shows up here that wasn't there before. And there's your train station. That's your connection, the only connection at that time. This is the current commuter rail station, but that would have been the only one in that time period. So again, the brown shows you the newer roads that pop up before this map was made in 1848. Well, that concludes my tour of this Google map here. Maybe there are other things I could have pointed out, but this has been a pretty long video already, and I don't feel like this map is really complete. I just stopped at 1848 because kind of ran out of time, ran out of maps. So I'm sure this could be expanded and maybe probably done better by someone at some point. So I'll sign off now.